The blizzard came without warning. One moment, Daniel was driving through a quiet stretch of highway, and the next, the world outside his windshield dissolved into violent white chaos. Snow slammed against the glass as if thrown by invisible hands. The wind screamed, not like weather, but like something alive and furious. His headlights cut only a few feet ahead before being swallowed by swirling white darkness. The road, the sky, the land, everything blended into a single endless void. His GPS froze, then went black. His phone showed one final bar of signal before displaying two words that made his stomach tighten. No service. Daniel tightened his grip on the steering wheel. He told himself to stay calm. He had driven through snow before, but this felt different. The silence between gusts was unnatural, heavy, like the world itself was holding its breath. Then the car jolted violently. The engine coughed, sputtered, and died. The dashboard lights flickered once and went out. The car slid sideways on the ice before stopping at an awkward angle off the road. For a few seconds, Daniel just sat there, staring at the dark dashboard, listening to the wind batter the car. He tried the ignition again. Nothing. The fuel gauge hovered just above empty. He exhaled slowly, watching his breath fog the air. The heater had already gone cold. He reached for his jacket, pulling it tight around himself, and cracked the window slightly, only to slam it shut as razor-sharp cold rushed in, stealing his breath. Time began to lose meaning. Minutes stretched unnaturally long. The blizzard outside grew louder, angrier. Snow piled against the doors, creeping higher. Daniel rubbed his hands together, trying to keep warm when he heard it. At first, it sounded like the wind changing pitch. Then it came again, softer, closer. A voice. "Hello, please." Daniel's heart slammed against his ribs. He leaned forward, straining to hear. His mind raced for explanations, radio interference, exhaustion, imagination. But the voice came again, clearer this time. "Please, it's cold." Someone was outside. He grabbed his flashlight, hands shaking, and pushed the driver's door open. The wind nearly tore it from his grip. Snow blasted his face, stinging his skin. He raised the flashlight and swept it across the darkness. Nothing but white, endless and empty. No houses, no other cars, just the howling storm. Then he looked down. Footprints circled his car. They were fresh, sharply pressed into the snow, forming a slow, deliberate loop around the vehicle. Daniel felt a deep, primal fear crawl up his spine. He followed the trail with the beam of his flashlight. The footprints didn't lead away. They didn't come from anywhere. They simply ended beneath the car. The voice spoke again, closer now. "Too close. Open the door." Daniel slammed the door shut and locked it, his chest burning as panic took over. The car felt suddenly smaller, tighter, like a coffin being sealed. The radio crackled to life without him touching it. Static filled the cabin, broken by whispers beneath the noise. Words surfaced, briefly through the hiss. "Daniel." His blood turned to ice. He had never said his name out loud. He shut the radio off, breathing hard, trying not to scream. The windows began to frost from the inside, thin white veins spreading across the glass. The car rocked gently, as if something leaned against it. Then came the sound of scraping, slow, deliberate nails dragging across metal. Daniel squeezed. His eyes shut, muttering prayers he hadn't spoken in years. He told himself it was just debris, just ice, just the storm. But the scraping moved, closer, higher, until it stopped beside the passenger window. A face emerged from the snow. It was pale, almost translucent, pressed against the glass as if molded from ice itself. Hollow eyes stared in, unblinking. Frost clung to its lashes and lip. Its mouth moved slowly. "Let me in." Daniel screamed. He slammed his fist into the steering wheel, his vision blurring with tears. The face pressed harder, the glass creaking softly. For a horrifying moment it seemed to sink into the window, as though the barrier between them was thinning. Then everything stopped. The face vanished. The wind fell silent for a single, impossible second. Daniel opened his eyes. The window was normal. The snow outside untouched, but the cold inside the car had deepened. His breath came out in thick, icy clouds. His limbs felt heavy, slow. From the back seat, a whisper drifted forward. "You stopped." He stopped too. Daniel turned around. The back seat was empty, yet the fabric was coated in frost as if someone had been sitting there for a long time. His vision tunneled, his thoughts scattered. He tried to remember warmth, sunlight, his mother's kitchen, the smell of coffee, but the memories slipped away like snow through his fingers. Then, far off in the distance, he saw light, yellow, weak, real. He forced his frozen hand onto the horn and pressed. The sound came out dull and broken, but it was enough. Headlights approached, cutting through the storm. Figures emerged, shouting, pulling open the door, wrapping him in blankets. Daniel barely felt them lift him out. As he was carried toward the rescue vehicle, he saw one of the rescuers freeze in place, staring beneath the car. His face dry. Ned of color. Daniel survived. At the hospital, doctors told him he had been minutes from freezing to death. When the storm finally cleared, authorities found something beneath the spot where his car had been stranded, a frozen body preserved by the ice. A man who had died years earlier in a blizzard on that same highway. His body had never been recovered. Daniel still drives, he still lives. But whenever snow begins to fall, he checks beneath his car before getting in. Because when he left the hospital that night, he saw something no one else noticed. Fresh footprints in the snow, leading toward him. The snow began falling hours before night, light at first, almost peaceful. By the time Marcus reached the northern freight route, the sky had turned a solid gray, heavy and low, as if it were slowly collapsing onto the road. He had driven this route for years. Winter storms were nothing new. Still, something about this one unsettled him. The air felt dense, charged, like it was waiting. As darkness settled in, the blizzard arrived fully formed. Snow blasted across the highway in violent sheets, erasing the edges of the world. Marcus leaned forward over the wheel, eyes burning as he fought to stay focused. The radio crackled endlessly, refusing to lock onto any station. Just static and the distant echo of interference. He reached to adjust it when he noticed headlights in his side mirror. Another truck. It followed at a steady distance, neither gaining nor falling back. That alone wasn't strange. Truckers often traveled together during storms, but Marcus couldn't remember passing anyone earlier. He shrugged it off and kept driving. Minutes passed, maybe longer. Time felt distorted inside the storm. The headlights were still there. Marcus sped up slightly. The truck behind him matched his speed perfectly. He slowed down, same result. The distance between them never changed. An uneasy chill crept through him that had nothing to do with the cold. He tried the radio again. Static. Then, through the noise, a voice slipped in. "Don't stop." Marcus stiffened. His hand froze on the dial. The voice sounded calm, tired, almost resigned. He stopped and froze. The radio went dead. Marcus's heart hammered. He told himself it was interference, crossed signals, his mind playing tricks after hours on the road. Still, his foot pressed harder on the accelerator. The storm intensified, wind rocking the truck, snow striking the windshield so hard it sounded like gravel. Visibility dropped to Almo. Nothing. The headlights behind him were still there, unwavering. His phone buzzed suddenly on the dashboard. No signal, no bars, yet the screen lit up with a single notification: rear camera active. Marcus frowned. The rear camera only turned on when he reversed. He hadn't touched it. Slowly, dread pooling in his stomach, he glanced at the screen. The camera feed showed the back of High's trailer coated in ice and snow. At first, everything looked normal. Then something moved. A shape clung to the metal door, half buried in snow, its limbs stretched unnaturally wide as if frozen mid-crawl. The face was pressed close to the camera lens, skin blackened with frostbite, lips cracked and blue, eyes wide and glassy with terror. The figure's mouth opened. The radio screamed back to, "Life! Keep driving!" Marcus shouted, slamming his foot down harder, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The engine roared in protest, but the truck surged forward. The camera feed flickered violently, then went black. He checked the mirrors again. The headlights were gone. The road ahead suddenly opened into a stretch where the storm thinned, revealing distant city lights glowing weakly through. The snow. Relief crashed over him so hard it nearly made him laugh. He didn't slow down until he crossed the city limits, pulling into a brightly lit truck stop, shaking from head to toe. Other drivers were there, laughing, drinking coffee, complaining about the weather. Marcus sat in his cab for a long time before stepping out. He walked to the back of his truck, heart pounding, bracing himself for what he might see. There was nothing there. No damage. No ice buildup beyond what the storm had caused. No footprints, no handprints, just snow. Marcus didn't finish his route that night. He told dispatch he was sick and booked a motel room. He didn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that face pressed against the camera, mouth opening silently. Days later, he searched online. It didn't take long to find it. A local news article from years ago. A truck driver lost during a historic blizzard on that exact route. His truck was found days later, abandoned on the roadside, engine still running. No body was ever recovered. Witnesses claimed another truck had followed him for miles before the storm swallowed them both. Marcus stopped driving. Winter routes after that. But when snow falls heavily now, when the world turns white and quiet, he swears he sometimes sees headlights in his mirror, perfectly spaced, perfectly still. And every so often, when his truck is parked and the engine is off, his phone lights up on its own, rear camera active, and a message appears beneath it. He stopped. The mountain hotel was supposed to close before the storm arrived, but the blizzard came early, rolling down the peaks like a living thing. Thick snow swallowed the road within hours, cutting the building off from the outside world. By sunset, every guest had been evacuated except one man, Elias, the night caretaker. He had stayed behind many times before. He knew the building, its creaks, its drafts, the way the wind howled through the upper floors. He told himself this night would be no different. By midnight, the power flickered and died. Emergency generators kicked in, bathing the corridors in a dull orange glow. The hotel felt smaller without electricity, the shadows heavier, pressing against the walls. Elias wrapped his coat tighter and began his routine rounds, checking doors, windows, and heating systems. The temperature outside had dropped well below zero, yet inside the hotel it was still strangely bearable. Too bearable. As he moved down the second-floor hallway, he noticed something that made him stop. Room 217. The thermostat outside the door glowed faintly. It read 18 degrees Celsius. Elias frowned. That wing of the hotel had ulwa. He's been cold, especially during storms. He placed his hand against the door. Warm. Unnaturally warm. He unlocked the door and stepped inside. The room felt like summer. The air was heavy, stale, carrying a faint metallic smell beneath the warmth. The bed was perfectly made, no signs of recent use. Elias checked the vents, the heater, even the walls. Nothing explained it. He told himself it was a faulty thermostat and left, locking the door behind him. At 2:17 a.m., the phone rang. The sound echoed sharply through the empty lobby, making Elias jump. He stared at the front desk phone for a moment before answering. Static hissed in his ear. "Front desk," he said. A pause. Then a voice, faint and layered, as if several people were speaking at once. "We are cold." The line went dead. Elias slowly lowered the receiver. No outside lines were working. The storm had knocked everything out. The only phones still active were internal. His eyes drifted to the call log. Room 217. His mouth went dry. He told himself it was a glitch. Old wiring, old building. Still, he picked up the flashlight and headed back toward the second floor. With every step, the hotel felt quieter, as if the storm outside had been muted. The orange emergency lights flickered as he passed beneath them. Room 217's door was slightly open. Elias was certain he had locked it. He pushed the door wider and stepped inside. The warmth was still there, but now it felt wrong, thick enough to press against his skin. The curtains fluttered gently, though the windows were sealed. Then he saw the bed. The BL. Blankets were pulled back. On the mattress lay shapes beneath a thin layer of frost, outlines of bodies as if snow had fallen indoors and settled around them. Elias froze. The frost cracked softly, shifting. The shapes moved. Eyes opened. They were human, but not alive. Skin gray-blue, lips blackened with cold. Their chests rose and fell in shallow, rattling breaths. One of them turned its head Oured him, ice breaking at the neck with a dry snap. "Still cold," it whispered. Elias staggered backward, slamming into the doorframe. The room's warmth vanished instantly. Cold flooded in, sharp and biting. Frost raced across the walls, the ceiling, the floor. The figures on the bed began to sit up, joints moving stiffly, faces locked in expressions of endless suffering. He ran. The hallway seemed longer now, stretching as he sprinted toward the stairs. Behind him, doors creaked open one by one. From inside the rooms came coughing, whispering, the sound of labored breathing. The hotel was waking up. Elias burst into the stairwell and nearly fell down the steps. He didn't stop until he reached the lobby, gasping, his lungs burning. He slammed the door shut and shoved a chair beneath the handle, hands shaking violently. The phone rang again. This time every phone in the lobby rang at once. Elias backed away, covering his ears as the ringing grew louder, overlapping into a piercing scream. Then, abruptly, it stopped. One phone remained off the hook, its receiver dangling. From it came slow, steady breathing. "You shouldn't have left," the voice said. "This room keeps us warm." The emergency lights flickered and went out. Darkness swallowed the lobby. The only light came from the snow outside, glowing faintly through the glass doors. Elias sank to the floor, pressing his back against the desk, whispering prayers. He didn't know how long he stayed there. Time dissolved into fear and cold. When morning came, the storm had passed. Rescue crews found Elias sitting in the lobby, alive but unresponsive, his hair stark white, his skin ice-cold to the touch. He never spoke again. He was taken away wrapped in blankets, staring endlessly at something no one else could see. The hotel reopened weeks later. Room 217 was sealed permanently. Guests still report that during blizzards, frost forms on the inside of its windows, no matter how warm the rest of the building is. And sometimes, late at night, the front desk phone rings. When someone answers, a voice whispers softly through the line, "We are still cold.